We're live.
All right.
I had
That's
to
the
go
third
live.
time I've cooked noodles, by the way. I cooked my son noodles and he ate them all, wanted more. I cooked more noodles. And after asking her both times, and only on the, only when I came in here, I was like getting set up and everything. It's like, all right, I want noodles now. It was like 6:31. I'm
Hey,
frantically trying to
I
cook them.
totally get it. It's okay. Just so you know, we're live because I had to, or else I would have had to create a
Oh,
whole
no worries.
entirely new thing. The link would have went away. Facebook is,
No worries.
they hate me. Um, and if I'm looking down, I'm not being rude. I'm sharing. I'm just sharing the live out. That's all. I do it really quick because
Whoops.
it does. It doesn't let me. And this will give me a couple minutes for people to come in anyway, right?
Yep.
So how are you?
Good, good. Things are moving along at a pretty good pace over here. We've been, this year has been a strange one. As you know, we're all emerging from the pandemic and everything. And for me, I've got two retail shops here in Austin that it's been a little bit of a struggle with staffing and everything. But luckily, I've got a good dedicated crew, particularly my managers that have been running those. And this has really been the year to get my book done. So I have been working. I've been, since we met in 2012, I was already at work, on a big coffee table book on the history of spirit communication apparatus, talking boards, Ouija, automatic writing planchettes. And this year, everything is in overdrive. In January, I hired Olivia Hendricks, who is a history graduate student at the University of Alabama who works with me here 3 or 4 days a week as a research assistant. And I am now writing 6 days a week on the light weeks and pretty much every day on the heavier ones. And this book is just a massive endeavor. We're looking at, our illustration count is looking to be about 1,500 illustrations and probably a good 400,000 word book. So we're talking a 500 page, big, thick, break the leg of your coffee table type affair. And it is shaping up so beautifully.
And the book's about
the history of the comprehensive, exhaustive even, history of spirit communication apparatus.
yeah, but it's so I'm so interested. And first of all this stuff going on, I want to thank you for taking the time out to come
Yeah,
on. You're very
absolutely.
busy. But I have no idea why you haven't been on sooner.
You got to ask me these things.
And I feel like I did, but then I was like, I don't see you on Facebook a lot. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
So I have, my social media presence has really diminished really in the last 2 years. Well, no, it's been 2 years. Even before the pandemic, I was getting kind of frustrated, struggling with the algorithms. I was posting
Yes.
5 days a week and it was historically researched content and, professional grade photographs and, in many cases and all this stuff. And it just stalled out. Instagram was my social media of choice. And I just couldn't seem to crack like 6,000 followers, and I felt like I was producing the right kind of content. And then my dear friend Brandy Knight actually earlier this year convinced me, and it was like return for the effort, right? It was like I was putting this effort into the writing, into the photography, and the payoff, just didn't, if you're going to go through this work, you wanted people to see it. It wasn't about ego or visibility. It's just, if you're going to do this work, you wanted people to see it. And so I decided to start putting that work into the book. And so in January, that really came online full time. And then about February, my friend Brandy Knight talked me into starting the occult archaeology TikTok. And that solved all of my engagement issues because within weeks we had crept up to about 15,000 followers, which was
Awesome.
nearly 3 times what I ever had on Instagram over posting 5 days a week for like 6 years and thousands of posts and crazy engagement, hundreds of thousands of views on some of our videos. And then I said, but it was so much more work. Like, I was having to edit videos and do voiceovers. And like, it was so much more work than research maybe I'd already done that I'm just going to publish with a photograph on Instagram. Suddenly I'm editing videos, and we made a good go of it. We got up to about 18,000 followers. Maybe we're close to 19 now, and we just ran out of gas. And so between kind of abandoning Instagram probably mostly 2 years ago and kind of having a brief spotlight on TikTok, yeah, I don't know what my social
Oh
media
my gosh,
presence
now I have
is.
so much more I want to talk about. All right. Well, all right, so let's start now. I
Yeah.
met I met Brandon. This is Brandon.
Hi,
Everybody.
everybody. I'm Brandon.
He is do you still talk about?
No, not many years. No.
Yeah, I haven't either. He's really busy, I guess. But I met Brandon at a Phenomenology 2012. And he was there with Bob Murch. I don't even know what to say your specialty. I don't want to say specialty, but like your
Right.
area of research is. I always
Well,
feel like
so I am a historian. I'm a degreed historian from the University of Texas, class of 2000, and I studied religious history in college, and my specialty in the late '90s became the rise of American spiritualism, the rise and arc of American spiritualism, and my collecting specialty at the time was spirit communication apparatus, not just talking boards. My real specialty, which is why my website as well as my social media identity is Mysterious Planchette. My real specialty are automatic writing planchettes, and so those are really my hey dude from Texas, back in Texas. So automatic writing planchettes, for those who don't know. So there were a lot of Ouija board collectors in the mix as we in the early 2000s, or in about 2010, we started, particularly as different web pages and stuff came along and different social medias. This larger corpus of collectors began to get together. And by maybe 2010, 2011, I started to realize there were a lot of Ouija collectors and a lot of redundancy in the history they were doing. But these automatic writing planchettes had been kind of left to the dustbin of history. The Ouija collectors weren't really interested in them, didn't collect them largely. And I had always kind of preferred them. And so I had bought up more of them. And so I kind of ran with that. I decided, that to make that my real historical specialty. My book covers the whole gamut of spirit communication apparatus.
and that's
But
the
for
one
those who
coming out, right?
don't know, I brought a few specimens along. So this camera's a little wonky for me. This is an automatic writing planchette. So they actually predate talking boards by about 35 years. They're first invented in 1853, only about 5 years into the spiritualist movement. They were invented initially in France. They've got a little heyday in the 1860s. And then in 1868, they have just a massive explosion of popularity here in America. And thankfully, because it gives me something to collect, as booksellers and stationers just went wild trying to create these things. And for those who don't know how they operate, they will eventually evolve into the indicator for a talking board. But before that, you had no alphabet. They have these wheeled casters, and the third wheel is a pencil. And so this would go on top of a piece of butcher's paper, foolscap paper on top of the table. You place it laterally. You can see the pencil here, and you would place your hands upon it, and it would begin to move autonomously and script out messages from the spirits. So
Wow.
And this is one of the earliest specimens. This is an early Boston planchette from
So
GW.
they would just use that?
That's right. And it would produce writing, be interpreted.
So it would right now. Have you ever used or tried to use anything that you've gotten?
Well, it's funny that we met at Phenomenology. One moment, y'all.
Oh, no, go ahead. Dude from Texas, my childhood home was haunted after my brother played with a Ouija board. Be careful. Oh, I'm glad he's bringing that up. I'm going to star that comment.
All right, star. We'll get that. So, in Phenomenology Conference was actually the first time I attended in my research. I think maybe I was a little too dismissive of shared experience. And I'm talking about historical seances here, because you're reading these accounts and, oh, these amazing things happen in the seance chamber, and almost, impossible to believe. And I'm very skeptical by nature. I'm not a believer. I'm not a practitioner. But when we went for phenomenology, and I don't know if you did the Tilly House on Friday night, I can't remember if you were there, but we brought a talking board along. I know because I was one of the guest speakers, I had to do like one of the all-night ghost hunts. I had to be like a host for one. So I was teamed up with Jeff Belanger at the Tilly House there in Gettysburg.
You know what? No, I did Farnsworth with Jeff and Bob.
All right. Okay.
That might have been Saturday night.
Maybe so.
Oh,
I
go
don't
ahead.
remember where else I went. But so we brought a board along and wound up using it that evening, and using it quite extensively, and getting a lot, just a large volume of communications through it. And that was my first time to really experience it firsthand. And it was in an environment with people I trusted. And it was just very easy to see, even from a skeptic's viewpoint, how easy it would be to accept that experience as something spiritual, as something truly spiritual. Again, I'm skeptical, but it was really revelatory to me, and very important to my research, to start taking shared experience with less of a grain of salt, to start approaching it more academically as a true account, rather than something that you might roll your eyes at or whatever. And I'm sure for many of the audience, many of you, I'm sure, have had experiences of an unexplained type. And even though I subscribe to the scientific beliefs of how the talking board operates with ideomotor response, it still was very eye-opening. And so I've been much more respectful in my approach to research ever since.
So I have to tell you, so I was there, and this is how I know Brandon. He's him and Bob have never ever left my thought, because the day I saw the lecture was the day that my mind was totally flipped about the Ouija board.
Right.
My whole life growing up, I'm thinking it's this horrible thing you shouldn't do. It's going to just automatically produce negative stuff. It's bad. My mom wouldn't let one in the house, because that's what she was, all the stories that she had heard, and everybody has a story about it, And so I remember walking into your guys' lecture, and I was like, wow, I'm like, okay, I'm still not going to use one unless I know how to use one on the paranormal side of things, but it is just another deviation tool. I mean, it's like, I remember when I was talking to Bob, he said, a Ouija board is nothing more or less than your digital recorder. You're still using that to communicate with spirits. So like, you can't say that this is bad and that's not.
Right.
Because you're doing the same thing. So from that moment on, I was like, this is so awesome. And I followed you guys. I friended you on Facebook. So I was like, I need to have one of you on, And so I'm happy that I did reach out to you. But that's when I met Brandon. I thought he was awesome. So your story sounds a lot like a lot of the people that I have on, that like Kenny Biddle. He started out as a ghost hunter and then said, I want to do this more scientifically, academically,
Right.
or, you know what I mean? Like, you started out like with this whole thing, and, I think it's awesome what you guys do. Like, I'm not afraid of the Ouija board anymore after your lecture.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. I give that lecture a lot.
I know, and I love it. So that's why I wanted you to
I feel like
on.
I've changed a lot of minds over the years, approaching it objectively and historically. I mean, I finally, I was accepted to speak at Lilydale on multiple occasions,
That's
which,
awesome.
So, and to the National Spiritualist Association of Churches, their annual conference with like all the heads of the current spiritualist church. And so I think there's been a lot of acceptance of that over the years.
Yeah.
I feel I've played no small part.
You should. Are you doing paranormal events? Like, are you going to like?
No, so I lecture a lot academically, And my most recent lecture was in February in Minneapolis, and yes, it was -3 degrees. This Texas boy was freezing his nubbies off. But I actually loaned quite a few artifacts to the Supernatural America exhibit at the Institute of Art there in Minneapolis, and actually went there and lectured. So I've done things primarily on an academic front, and I just really haven't been on the paranormal circuit in a number of years. I think my last opportunity to even lecture on that circuit was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and so maybe that's something I'll get back around to.
Oh my God, it'd be so awesome for you to do that. One, because everything's negative, evil, and demonic nowadays.
Yeah, everything.
Everything.
I remember a day when if you went on eBay and typed in haunted, you'd only get like 16, 17 results, and now it's like here, haunted doorknobs, it's haunted everything.
Oh my, and even I had somebody approach me and say they wanted to come on the show to promote what they do, and they do basically you have to pay them to give them your story if you're a victim of being a succubus or an incubus. So you give them $10, they'll accept your story, and then I don't know why that's doing that, but they'll accept your story, and then they recreate it sexually.
Oh, but
and then
sexually?
Yes, and then you have to pay to see it.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That was like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong line of work.
Ghost.
So, dude from Texas had an inquiry.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right. So he said, is this it? Whom was? You're muted. Can I hear you now?
Yeah, I had to mute for a second.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know. I'm sorry.
It was me. I might have to.
I thought you were reading. I thought you were reading.
Everyone, I've got 2 young kids at home tonight.
Oh,
so,
you're totally fine.
If you see me cut out for a second.
No, you're totally fine. He said, I think this was it. My childhood home was haunted after my brother played with the Ouija board. Be careful with those. I experienced bizarre events in the home. And the only reason I said that was because I wanted to get to you with like the history and then coming up to how your lecture kind of unfolds there.
I'm happy to take everyone through the history if that's what y'all want to hear.
Yeah.
It's certainly my specialty anyway.
Yeah, I do. I want to hear it.
So, most people are probably familiar with the birth of spiritualism. You have a lot of confluence of events here in America. You've got the publication of Emanuel Swedenborg's writings, where he sort of gives a new conception of the afterlife and where spirits go after they die, non-biblical. You also have mesmerism, the rise of mesmerism, Anton Mesmer, the concept of animal magnetism and different forces that flow through the human body that will lead to modern day hypnotism. And you have Andrew Jackson Davis, the famous Poughkeepsie seer, who is literally channeling the spirit of Emanuel Swedenborg and promoting his teachings. So an early form of mediumship. And most famously, the Fox sisters on the night of March 31st, 1848, begin to experience what we would call poltergeist-like activity in their Hydesville, New York home. And they begin to communicate with these spirits in a binary way. Their original code is not once for yes, twice for no. It's a little more complicated than that, but you get the idea. Spirit. So what they experience are these rappings and knocks, these strange noises, and the youngest sister, Kate Fox, challenges these noises. It's a myth, this whole Mr. Splitfoot, do what I do. That's a much later myth. They're hearing these noises. She actually stands on the bed, it said, and snaps her fingers a few times. and the spirits copy her raps, her snaps. And so through that, they begin to establish a means of communication. The locals get involved, and you can do what's called alphabet calling. You can call out the alphabet to the air, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, write down F, and in that way you can spell out messages. So that is the most primitive, earliest form of spirit communication, and that's a form of mediumship known as rapping mediumship. You have other forms, direct voice channeling, for instance, which is what Andrew Jackson Davis would do. He would fall into a trance and speak with the voices of the deceased. And also automatic writing is proposed pretty early. You just hold a pencil loosely and you would, fall into a trance again, but rather than speaking, you were writing. But the most prominent form of mediumship in this era, particularly for the first 5 years, are going to be the Fox Sisters style of rapping mediumship. So communicating with the raps and noises that would follow these sensitive individuals around. Now, the Fox Sisters would, in their adult lives, they're teenagers at that time, in their adult lives, even though they make a massive career and spark up really a new religion with this phenomenon that has millions of adherents. It was a major force in American religion during this era. They will later recant and say they were cracking their toe knuckles and knee joints in order to produce these raps. And they must have been quite proficient at it. But they convinced a lot of people in the veracity of spirit communication. And about 5 years in 1853 is really where everything starts to coalesce for me in particular as a collector and a historian of physical artifacts. And that way I kind of do a type of archaeology, really, because I'm tracing this history through physical artifacts like the planchette. Here's another one. We'll get back to that in a second. But I've got a lot of show and tell.
Yay.
And I'm it's convenient. I can just reach, right behind me and grab whatever I need. But so you have the rise of a phenomenon known as table tipping or table turning. I don't know how many in the audience have experienced table tipping, table turning seances, but this phenomenon begins to be discovered in the early 1850s, and by late 1852, the news of it is spreading. And that is, you would sit around your kitchen table, or a bar stool, any chair, even a top hat, place your hands on it, and it would begin to move autonomously in the same way we as modern users would be familiar with the Ouija board. Hi. And I just assumed she was calling me sweetie, but that might have been.
Of course she was.
I just see hi, sweet. And I get that all the time.
That's awesome.
And so, so spiritualists begin to experience this autonomous movement in the same creepy, mysterious way we feel that that the Ouija board planchette moves of its own volition. They begin to experience that with kitchen tables. They begin to use pendulums in the same way that we use pendulums in the modern era.
Are you saying you're talking about the Fox Sisters, right?
No. Spiritualists in general. The Fox Sisters engage almost strictly in rapping style mediumship. And they were teenagers. They were young teenagers when all this started. But by the 1850s, they're getting up in their late teenage, early 20s years. So they're becoming adults at this time. But the news of this table tipping phenomenon begins to spread. And keep in mind, in this era, the Fox Sisters are not the first to experience that sort of phenomenon or even to communicate with rapping spirits. You have the Cock Lane Ghost in 1762, for Christ's sake, nearly 100 years before. But the news of it doesn't stay localized because we have the advent of the telegraph. We have the advent of the Associated Press in 1845. So this local news story spreads nationally. And so you have this rise of believers and spiritualists and mediums who are emulating the Fox Sisters. And very quickly, it's like everyone who hears about it, suddenly there are young women all over the country that are suddenly experiencing this phenomenon. And but unlike a Fox Sister seance, it typically take place in dim light. We'll get to dark seances here in a moment. a Fox Sister Sounds, you go and you are a passive participant. You are a passive audience member listening to these rapping noises and listening to the medium tell you what they mean. In a table tipping seance, so by 1853, the summer of 1853, table tipping is a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, on the level of like the hula hoop in the 60s, Cabbage Patch Dolls, whatever, planking, where everybody's planking, everybody's doing
Everybody's
the
doing
latest TikTok thing, becomes this massive phenomenon. And people all in the Western countries, in Europe and the US, the UK, are experimenting with this table tipping phenomenon. And you can communicate with the table in the same way that a medium communicates with a rapping spirit. And that is, you can ask it to knock once for yes or twice for no. You can call out the alphabet and wait for the table to move and respond. And this sort of do-it-yourself mediumship, this hands-on, intimate form of mediumship where you're actually experiencing this firsthand rather than being a passive participant, sweeps the Western world by storm. It's hard to overstate just how popular a phenomenon this is. It was something you could just go home and try. You didn't even have to buy anything. And so because of this, the evolution of apparatus for spirit communication begins. And it starts with the tables, and people start to, but it gets boring, right? You're sitting there, your hands are on the table, you're waiting for it to move, you're calling out the alphabet over and over and over, and it's tough. There's one scientist that does some tests, and him and his friends start spelling messages out from one another, and they're aware of what messages they're attempting to spell out, and it takes them, and they get 240 characters an hour. So it takes a long time. I mean, that's like 2 tweets, y'all, So it takes a long time. And so people are trying to expedite this process, and that is where the explosion of devices begins to occur.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to pause there because we might have some questions, and
that was cute. I like that. I like how you are giving the So, okay, question. What's been the werewolf planchette you've come across?
I'm gonna guess that's the weirdest planchette. Oh, I thought that said I owe you $6.53. I was like, oh, I owe someone money. Imagine that.
I don't.
Or is that an allusion to my hairy chest? Come on, Darren. Well, I do own a planchette made from a human skull.
A werewolf?
And I've got a couple of others that.
Maybe you meant the weirdest.
Well, yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, probably the
I
weirdest.
was totally thinking there was like a werewolf planchette.
Yeah, I do own a planchette made out of a human skull.
Really?
Like the front. I can go grab it.
Yeah.
Y'all want to see it. Of course you want to see it.
I know. I actually want to see all of it.
I can give y'all a walk around tour.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'll have to turn on a few lights.
It's okay, Darren. Brandon knew what you were saying. I'm the one that didn't. I thought there was really a werewolf planchette.
All right, here we come.
So how did you get this? Did somebody say, I'm willing it to you? Oh, that's cool.
No. It's acquired. It was offered to me. You can see it's got this brass. Sorry, this camera kind of operates in a mirror image.
Yes.
So there's your little wheels.
Now, you've never used that?
This one I have not used. So you see it's got this little brass pencil aperture that's screwed.
Wow.
Front there.
I'm with Amber. Holy sh! That's really cool.
This was featured in Paul Gambino's book Skulls too.
That's really cool. So with just that though, that's one of the ones that they would just put on the table and it would write.
That's right. That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Let me put that in a safe place so I can get back
Yes.
with songs. So so you have this explosion of table tipping in 1853, and adjust my camera here, and that is when the evolution of devices really start. Um, for example, so you have a lot of people that start to create alphabetic devices. You do have at the time in use these alphabet cards. So it's not a Ouija yet. They're not pairing that table movement with the alphabet yet. They have these alphabet cards, and what they'll do is they'll use a pencil to point to the letter and wait for the table or the rapping spirit to rap to indicate a letter. And so who can read lips? So you have also people begin to create alphabetic devices that harness the movement of the table to turn a dial and point to different letters to sort of expedite these movements. So rather than A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G, and waiting for the table to respond, the table would sort of hover, and this dial, I'll kind of pull up something, and so you would have maybe this box on the table. This is not one of them. This is a later device. And you would have a little pulley that would turn the disc to point out the letters on the board. So they were harnessing the movements of the autonomous movements of the table, which are akin again to the Ouija board planchette movement.
So before they kind of got them together, something like that was made, and where the table tipped is and where that dial would land would be what they thought. Oh wow, I didn't even know that ever existed.
Yeah. And so your earliest devices began coming predominantly out of Europe as a result of this movement. And I'm going to pull up a picture real quick if I can find it quickly. I brought my laptop here. I think I can do this. A picture of really what we consider, it's often attributed as like, oh, it's the first Ouija board. Not exactly true, but
what do you mean?
Sorry, first patented Ouija board. It's only kind of that. If I can find the picture real quick expediently. Come on, where are you at? Where's my Wagner psychograph? Here we go. All right. I'm just going to pull this. Just put my screen.
Oh, yeah.
Up there. So what you are looking at here, God, this is so hard to work in mirror image. See, so what you're looking at here, you can see the alphabet card on the table. This was an early device created by Adolphus Wagner in Berlin in 1854. And this thing, these little paddles that were based on pantograph writing devices. This would screw on the edge of the table, and users would place their hands on those little paddles, and it would have little wheels and or little stilts, and then would rest on a sheet of pane of glass to sort of expedite their movements. And the indicator on that would point to the letters. Here's a similar device with some hands on it from an illustration from the 1920s. And and so that is largely considered the world's first. So it gets a patent in London in 1854. And so this is very early. So just to put things in context of where we're even going here, the Ouija doesn't come along till 1890, and talking boards really 1886. So we are still decades removed from the Ouija board. So we have Ouija cards. We've got the weird, creepy movement, autonomous movement that we'll experience with the Ouija planchette. And we even have that movement paired with an alphabet device. But another device is going to come along that's going to kind of claim the crown of this for a few decades, and that's going to be the automatic writing planchette. It's invented at the same time as Wagner's psychograph, and it's invented in France at a Parisian seance on June 10th, 1853. And absolutely. And it is initially created when the spirits begin to give directions for communicating more efficiently. They suggest to the seance sitters to tie a pencil to a table leg so that they can write. And so they do this with like a dining room table, like a big, bulky French, thing. And it doesn't go so well. Of course, the pencil breaks. And then the spirits begin to get frustrated. They tell them to try something smaller. They try a smaller table, try something smaller. They find, I think, a chair. And then finally, the spirits get very frustrated and say, kind of, hey, idiots, go to the next room, fetch that basket from the mantle, attach a pencil to it, and next time I'll write for you. So they do that. They take a basket, they put a pencil through the straw weave of it, and they place their hands upon it, and it begins to write autonomously. So we finally have the sort of creepy movement of the tables more directly focused on the communication through the pencil. So it begins to write out messages. And that's the invention of the planchette, which gets its name not from the basket, but from the Parisian cabinet makers who begin to create these little boards or little planks in order to sell to the spiritualists there. And that's where we get that. For anybody who came on a little later, here's the example we showed earlier of an automatic writing planchette. This is an American example out of Boston in the 1860s, when America will experience big crazies. We'll get to that in a second. And for anyone who didn't catch it earlier, it's got two wheels. So it's like a Ouija board planchette, but it has a pencil in place of an indicator or a window. And instead of pairing it with an alphabet card, it writes.
So do you believe that that really happened?
I do. So we have that account that it's pretty well documented, the creation of planchettes.
No. I mean, when people used it and claimed that it was working.
Oh, yes. We have lots of documented planchette writings on the record that were reproduced over the years, and many, many, many accounts throughout the years. It was a massive cultural sensation. Not immediately. It was big in France for a while, the summer of 1853. By 1860, 1861, spiritualists in Great Britain are using them. And then in 1868, we're talking after the American Civil War, you faced a 750,000 lives lost here in this country. And you have a massive cultural explosion. They literally go viral because of a British article called Planchette that kind of goes viral. It gets reprinted in all the newspapers of the day, talking about the wonderful and sensational messages being received through these devices. So suddenly everyone has to have one. It becomes the yo-yo. The Cabbage Patch Kid, I explained, that earlier.
Right.
Just
the planchette.
The must-have, the Tickle Me Elmo of
Yeah.
the season. And in 1868, 1869, the planchette has got popular music written about it. It has, it's appearing in cartoons and comics, and it's all in the newspapers. And you've got a lot of, developments in that. You've got all of these companies scrambling to kind of come up with the latest and greatest design.
Wow.
Like company and Pitcher would make these little distinctive scoops, trying to create a design unique enough to patent so they could protect, so they could shut down sales for the companies. None of them were successful. And particularly my favorite company, and this may fall into the weirdest category, was a company called Kirby and Company. So, and actually, before I get to Kirby and Company, I'll talk a little bit more about this board, because this one's pretty special. You have a bookseller, back up a little bit. In 1858-59, these two prominent Americans. One is a doctor, Dr. H.F. Gardner, out of Boston, and another is a social reformer called Robert Dale Owen. Robert Dale Owen is a kind of a famous American from that time. He was an ambassador to Sicily, And he actually buys, him and Dr. Gardner buy 6 planchettes while they're in Paris on their return to America. They give one to a Boston bookseller. We don't know exactly who the Boston bookseller is, but this guy's a good candidate, G.W. Cottrell. And he makes 50 copies of that Parisian planchette and puts them on the shelves, and no one buys them. This is 1860. And so it's not until 1868 when there's this massive craze. This guy is going, hey, I've been doing this for years. So we have newspaper accounts of people interviewing him at the time. And this is one of those early planchette designs. It actually says on here, made from the original pattern since 1860. But other planchette manufacturers had a problem with that, particularly Kirby and Company, who were really the king of American planchette manufacturers. They produced 3 different wood models, which most of which were identified by this distinctive scoop, very fine brass hardware with ivory wheels. And they also produced one of America's earliest plastic products in their, what they called their India rubber number 3 planchette, which was actually an early form of ebonite. Or was ebonite, an early form of plastic, but their pinnacle planchette was the number 4. And the number 4 was their plate glass planchette.
Oh, that's pretty. I like that.
Isn't that nice?
I like that one.
So
I would walk in and I would just like, ding. That's pretty cool. I love that.
And so
one.
you can actually see, this is really the pinnacle of automatic writing technology, because you can actually see your writing as it's being produced.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's beautiful. Whew, woman boner.
Oh, I have to be so careful with that one.
Yes.
The fact that it survived to the modern day is
wow, that's really cool. Now, how old is that?
That dates from 1868. The Great Craze.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So,
any questions? That's good. That kind of covers, the planchette craze up to about 1868.
Yeah. Well, so do you? I do have a question because I was thinking this. That's why I was writing down so I don't forget, because I have ADD really bad, and I'm like, I'll forget. With hieroglyphics and stuff like that, you haven't been able to trace back, like, if the Egyptians and people of that nature were trying to communicate with spirit.
Okay, so one kind of common, it's not a myth. It's kind of it's improper to call it a myth because it's historical fact, but it's what I would call an improper association.
Okay.
Is, you'll often see in a lot of Ouija blogs that haven't done their research, the Ouija board dates to 500 BC, to the age of Pythagoras, when, they were used in these alphabet. And yes, that there are some early accounts of essentially what describes a pendulum being used over a silver bowl that had the Greek alphabet around its perimeter, and that it would, you would dangle the ring from the string, and it would indicate messages. The reason, so that is a historical fact. We do have documented evidence of that. But to draw the conclusion that ancient history in any way influenced the creation of these devices is just kind of a false conclusion. It's a false equivalency. And another thing that we see predominantly in the world of planchettes with automatic writing apparatus is Fuji writing in China. And so it was a very common Victorian thing. Victorian writers in Western cultures didn't want to give credit to anyone for much of anything. And so you often see this across multiple historical disciplines where Victorians can be very dismissive of popular fads and discoveries by saying, well, the ancients were doing that. They were doing that thousands of years ago. This is nothing new. Eye roll, get over yourself.
Right.
And so that hits home in this historical discipline as well. Modern spiritualists in the modern era, we're not familiar with these. They were not copying some ancient account that they read. And another thing that I've seen that I stumbled across, and just in my research just a couple of days ago, I remember a few years ago there was the equation of, I'm trying to remember the name. It's essentially Egyptian chess. It's got this long board, and there are some elemental symbols on some of the checks. There were two of these game boards found in Tutankhamun's tomb, and it's a chess like game. You move around, and I remember one of these was discovered in a new tomb. Had little drawers, little playing pieces, and it was basically called, the headline was like the Egyptian Ouija board. Only because this game was equated to essentially moving into the afterlife. The goal of the game seems to be correlated to moving into the afterlife. It's not a communication device, but
Like
again,
Jumanji?
headlines repeated that sort of Victorian way of writing, going, oh, look, we're nothing special. The ancients were doing it way better long before we were. And so that's something we inherited from the Victorians, and something, yes, Fuji writing in China did exist. No one who invented the planchette was aware of or emulating or copying this phenomenon. But yes, Fuji writing in China deals with you have a sand tray and this forked twig with a little indicator at the end, and you would drag this forked twig through the sand to draw symbols, which is a little bit easier in Chinese script, and rather than individual letters. And then those would be deemed messages from the spirits. And that's been going on since at least the 12th century. But so, yeah, you do have Victorian writers who dig that information up and then try to make equivalency of them. And I think that disregards and dismisses modern innovation. And so, and I would say spiritualists, they were definitely doing this from a pure place. They were just trying to expedite their communications. It's a little unfair to give all the credit to the ancients for something that happened to be.
Yeah, no, I just thought that maybe, like, I was just saying, but you don't think that, so you don't believe that spirits are actually communicating through these things?
Not personally, but I'm not, I'm what I call a soft skeptic, like, show me the proof, show me the money, and so I would love to be proven wrong. I spend so much of my time with these artifacts that that would certainly be amazing. And certainly spirit communication in general, ghostly encounters, hauntings, is certainly nothing new in American or in world history, for that matter. Belief in spirit. So,
yeah. So
you've got John Dee summoning,
you have what?
You have John Dee, for instance, and Edward Kelly, summoning a spirit, through occult means. So certainly nothing new, but modern American spiritualism, I'm going to say modern, that the term for American spiritualism, starting with those Fox sisters, is
right.
Is fairly unique in its approach and its its operations.
So before you show us around, because I do want to see all your stuff. Well, your Ouija stuff, but I remember one time I tested this, right? So we got a Ouija board, and I'm
just going to show some stuff off, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead. Nobody's going to pay attention to me. They're going to want to know what you have.
Well, then you got no. Like before I show
because I'm going to want to know. I'm not going to want to tell my story.
I don't want to interrupt.
You know what I'll do? It'll be a short version. So we were doing the Ouija board, and I said, in my head, I said this all to myself, like I wasn't saying it out loud. I said, I'm going to think of an answer, and I'm going to say it over and over and over and over and over and over again, and I'm going to see what it does. So the girl asked the question, like, oh, what's your name? And in my head, I was saying Bob. Over and I was barely touching it. I was barely touching it. So all I was doing was thinking of that name, and it did Bob. So ever since, I've wondered, is it more, I know I wasn't touching it enough to move it, but is it, the thought process of, a thought form, or
Well, it seems that way. It seems we're not touching it enough to move it, but we
you
are.
think I was?
Yeah. That's the whole premise of ideomotor response, unconscious muscular movement. I have a trick. So part of my background in this is I'm a retired magician. I used to perform,
Oh, cool.
and I had a haunted antiques routine, sort of seance sort of thing that I performed for many years.
You're like an onion, you just keep peeling the layer.
Long retired. But I used to have, as part of my routine, to demonstrate this. I would I could blindfold a user, kinky, I know, but or not, but but it was neater to see it, to watch, for them to watch and experience it. I can have you hold a pendulum, and I can coach you in a way to make the pendulum move however I want, just by my language, and not by telling you move it this way, but by describing things and scenes that either create linear imagery to make it move back and forth, or circular imagery to make it move circularly. And just in the language I use, for example, if I describe a whirlpool, and it will begin to move. I can start to begin driving down long straight roads headed for El Paso, and you get linear movement, and you're unaware of that. I could totally blindfold you, handcuff you if you're really into it, and it would still and it would still move in the way that I can coach.
That's interesting, because since I've done that, I'm like, I thought, I was like, see, it's just a game. I was like, I was making it like, just that wasn't a spirit, that was me.
Just some show and tell before we.
Yeah.
We are at a weird time of day in my home for lighting, because
I can see it good.
No. Back here is fine. So this is my well lit room. My front rooms aren't so well lit, and we're in that weird part of the day where it's not dark enough outside for my lamps to properly illuminate the room, and
Right.
it's not. And it's too bright outside. It washes out my lamps, but
Wait,
it's not
where are
bright enough
you?
outside to really illuminate my home. It's fine back here. So I'll show you some of the collection back here, and we'll go up front here in a minute. This is a recent pickup. This is an Australian psychograph.
So where do you acquire these? Do you find them?
I have literally a worldwide network of dealers and pickers that I coach and train to keep an eye out on things for me.
That's amazing.
Lots of online auctions and searching.
That's so cool.
Psychograph, or dial planchette, that's called. And then we've got some fun goodies. So basically, we had the Ouija board. I mean, the planchette craze in 1868. You have a lot of devices like these two that come along in the 1880s. So the Ouija board's not the first spiritual alphabetic spelling device. This is from the 1880s here. This is a total psychograph, so this predates the Ouija board by several years. But in 1890 is when the Ouija comes along. You have a couple of men that are playing around with talking boards. Well, in 1886, you have sort of a newspaper viral phenomenon of this news of the new planchette, a talking board that's in use among Ohio spiritualists, and illustrated articles that essentially illustrate a talking board with the double arc of letters and numbers below make the rounds in the newspapers. It's a very popular article. The new plan, it's got a lot of names, but the new planchette is one of them. This article is seen in Chestertown, Maryland, by a couple of men, Charles Kennard and E.C. Reich. They'll both claim that they are the inventors of the Ouija. And Charles Kennard, though, takes the idea to Baltimore with the idea of manufacturing it. And he partners up with a guy named Elijah Bond, who's kind of the famous patentee. So for those of you who have seen the Ouija board gravestone in Baltimore,
yes,
that's on the grave of Elijah Bond, who he's not the inventor, because none of them invented the Ouija. It was invented technically by Ohio spiritualists, but even then, you have lots of newspaper accounts, even in the 1870s, about putting your planchette on an alphabet board. And so it's not really a new concept, but it's the first time it's marketed commercially. And so Elijah
are you saying like there isn't really an inventor of like the planchette and like it just kind of
The
evolved.
planchette, we know there's a seance group
The
that
Ouija
did
board.
invent the basket. Talking boards, yeah, there's not a solid, the idea of pairing the planchette with an alphabet board, essentially. And that's what Charles Skinner did and what he claimed to do. And Elijah Bond, though, they form a company, the Kennard Novelty Company, and they do patent the device. So there's that famous patent and why he has the picture of the patented Ouija on his gravestone. And then they got the product. They don't have the name. What's that?
I said which is very cool, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great. If you get a chance to visit it in Greenwood Cemetery in Baltimore, it's definitely a great day trip and one of my favorite cemeteries in the world. It's beautiful. And so they have the board. They don't have the name. So all of this information comes from this 1919 squabbling in the editorial pages of the Baltimore Sun and the Baltimore American, where the inventors of the Ouija are all rushing to get. It's kind of a pissing contest. They basically have a pissing contest in the pages of the Baltimore Sun, and thank goodness they do because we have the earliest history. But in those accounts, they actually talk about the Ouija's naming. And so they have the product, they don't have the name. They are in Elijah Bond's home, and his sister-in-law, Helen Peters, soon-to-be sister-in-law, Helen Peters, is the medium at work in the board. And they ask it what it would like to be called, and it spells out Ouija. And they ask it what that means, and it says good luck. So that is how the Ouija got its name. Another common myth is that it's the yes, yes board because it's we for, we in French. And but again, a myth, and that myth got repeated decade after decade, year after year, after first popping up, and it's but here's an original Ouija board.
Oh wow!
This is a very early production model. This is the front. Ouija here. This one comes after they acquired the trademark, and it has also registered, so we're able to date it.
Who acquired it? Was that you said E.C.
Riche? So what happens is after the Ouija has its initial surge of popularity, the E.C. Riche guy comes from Chestertown, Maryland. He had been partners with Charles Kennard, and he comes to Baltimore, and he goes to the company directors, and he's like, you copied my idea. And they believe him enough to give him stock in the company.
Wow.
But even then, we know he didn't believe it because we got accounts, of the talking board 4 years previously. Not to mention 4 years previously, the W.S. Reed Company in Leominster, Massachusetts, actually produced what they called a witch board in 1886 and sent one to Grover Cleveland during his White House wedding. The president at the time, he got married in the White House, and they sent him what they called the witch board. It was in the papers of the day, and it's talking board. And this one would use this very distinctive shaped planchette. Likely, it carries the shape to distinguish it from writing planchettes, which typically had a heart shape. They will eventually go back around to more of a heart or shield shape.
Oh, wait, where's the one that was given to the president?
We've never. Unfortunately, presidential archives weren't a thing at that time.
Oh, wow.
It's lost to history.
Somebody probably has that and has no idea.
I know. There's a letter. Grover Cleveland did write a letter thanking them for it and letting the American public know that he wouldn't be using it to consult on any policy matters.
What, could you imagine, because at some point the Ouija board got this bad juju about it, You imagine somebody having that and the mom going upstairs throw that thing out, I'm burning it. Oh. Yeah. No. Let's just pray it exists somewhere and eventually gets
that evil legacy is something, that gets inherited from spiritualism. It gets inherited from table tipping. It gets inherited from automatic writing planchettes. I have accounts as far back as 1853 that talk with French writer Cahanet, who is a prolific planchette user, or maybe it's Louis Figuier, prolific planchette user, whose planchette goes all Tourette's on him, starts cursing at him and using foul language. And some messages finally break through from his usual spirit guide who tells him that the varnish of the planchette has become possessed by the devil.
Mm.
And they
So
ask to
that
revarnish.
that was before.
Yeah, that's 35 years before the
Yeah.
Ouija even gets around. And so it's nothing new. You'll hear a lot of stuff about that really want to attribute The Exorcist to sort of the modern conception of the demonically possessed Ouija board.
Yeah.
It's just the historical evidence contradicts that.
Right. Wow.
Who wants a tour? Let me see if I can turn my
Oh,
camera
yes.
around here.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's see. I'm not sure that it gives me
Oh, are you on your phone?
I am.
All right. So if you're on your phone on StreamYard, you have to like go down. You might have to scroll, and then you'll see like I think it says settings.
Yep.
And then you would select camera. And then you scroll and it'll say back or front.
I see. All right. Here we go.
Good thing I know how to use StreamYard.
All right.
Well, this is cool. What's the oldest Ouija board you have?
That would be the one I just showed y'all. Is one of the oldest in my collection. I do have one that doesn't have the registered trademark on it, which means it came before that period. So this is my back room. This is not my main room yet. This is but one of my. This is I kind of I guess I'm starting from the back here and I'll work my way back to the front. Give me 1 second to turn on some cabinet lights here. So this is my back room where I largely keep my talking boards. Here's one of my display cases. That's a talking skull, which is a magic prop that raps out messages from the spirits. These are some occult artifacts. I also collect lots of occult stuff. These occult artifacts are radio hypnotic crystals. These are used for mesmerism and hypnotism. And there's a collection of wrapping hands. Again, another magic trick. But I've got a wide variety of talking boards. These are from the 1920s from Michi Manitou. The Michi Manitou boards from Wilder Manufacturing. And just a smorgasbord of talking boards, spirit trumpets, phrenology heads. Dark corner here for a second. And then we'll come back around here. There's my kids letting y'all know. My kids talking about technology. They're better at this than we are, y'all. There's my creepy squirrel. Ah, Kung Fu squirrel.
Go back up go back. Oh, that one's pretty too. Oh my gosh. Go back over to above that right there. That one above. That's hanging on the wall, the gold frame.
Yeah.
Is that fab? Is that a wood?
This is a Hasco from the 1940s. And yeah, they did this popular Egyptian theme.
That's pretty. Oh, that one's cool too.
Yeah, we'll get a closer look at that. Another one of those here in a second. We've got some stuff behind glass here. There's another total psychograph. This planchette here was used during the Second World War to get messages from the dead and of dead soldiers and transmitted to their families. There's a German talking board from the 1890s and some automatic writing planchettes. We're going to be seeing more of those. There's my earliest example there.
You should be like going everywhere with all. Like I think. Well, I guess you have to be careful about what you move and what you don't move.
Well,
right?
You'd be amazed what I can fit in an artist portfolio. I can fit pretty much everything you see right there in an artist portfolio and travel only with carry-on baggage. It's pretty amazing. It does not seem possible, but I do it regularly. I'm going to switch us up here for a second.
Darren's asking what board is worth the most. I think he means like
I'll show you when I get to it. I'll show you what probably is worth the most. I don't have my. I've got this wall of sort of table tipping here. So here's a table tipping seance in progress here.
Oh, that's cool.
Another one here with this Italian example, pardon the glare, where a
No, you're
spirit
fine.
actually gets shot in a seance. You can see this battery. They're using this battery to like charge the atmosphere of the room, and the
Wow.
spirit manifests
It's
and
almost
then
like
gets shot.
the same thought, but just different.
Here's a little satirical cartoon. They're table tipping. The lights go out. Some making out. Here's kind of my wall of palmistry, including some palmistry themed boards and a little palmistry themed automatic writing planchette. Cool.
Your whole house is a museum.
Yeah, it's very museum like. In fact,
That's amazing. I would love it
here in Austin. Here's my wall of hypnotism and mesmerism, and mesmerist and his somnambule. Here, some other little artifacts. I'll move here into my.
Do the kids know they have a really cool dad?
They like any kid. I'm always reminded, there's this kind of famous picture of the guitarist from Slayer, and he's like at the Grammys or something, and he's the guitarist from, I can't remember his name. I think it's Tom, and he's the guitarist for Slayer, for Christ's sake, and his teenage daughter is standing next to him, and he's given the devil horn sign. And she's rolling her eyes.
Yeah.
It's like it's your father at the Grammys, and even then you don't think he's cool. He's the guitarist for Slayer. So yeah, there's not a lot I can do to convince them. As much as I try to tell them I'm a cool dad. And then we'll go kind of to the front of the house, and again, I'm not sure. This might show up kind of all right. You can see it's not quite dark enough outside for my inner lighting to illuminate everything.
Wait, where do you live?
I'm in Texas.
Oh, so we have a time difference. Good thing I said the Eastern.
Yep, I did catch that.
That's cool. Ooh,
so this is my wall of astrology. It does have some astrological themed talking boards like this beauty.
Oh, that's pretty.
And so this is some astrology artifacts and astrological horological calculators. And then you're welcome. And then this is one of my favorite talking boards by Theodore H. White. I'm actually his biographer. And he was a Baltimore-based occultist who produced a number of talking boards in his lifetime. And favorite subject on this. Favorite subject on this subject. So, you get into some cool old spook show stuff. My favorite photographer, my personal photographer, Darla Teagarden. She does some pretty amazing work. Check her out. Oh. And then you get into one of my display cases. This is predominantly automatic writing planchettes, but it does have some smaller, rare talking boards. Here's some galvanic devices for, basically quack medicine pendants. There's an automatic writing planchette with the face you might recognize of Alexander the Crystal Seer, who he's the man who knows. You might see that. I think they sell posters with his face on them at Target every now and again.
You know what? It had a glare, so I thought it was going to be the that genie from Pee Wee Herman.
From Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Yeah.
Mecca like a high,
Mecca ho.
Zombie.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, that was the name. Yep. Those are so cool.
And then here's my workspace. So this is where my book gets written. You can see my pile of reference materials here at the moment. Everything I've been going through. Some old printing blocks from Ouija and Planchette and Spiritual Publications. You can't see those too well. It's a little dark. My Hackstone collection. I collect those as a hobby. Then you get into, this is kind of my wall of ratathesia and pendulums, which are obviously a related means of spirit communication. There's an old dowsing rod that glares really bad.
Oh, how old's that?
This is one of the oldest artifacts in my collection. This is from the 1820s.
Oh,
It's on
wow.
a shipwreck off Seal Island in Nova Scotia. And you can see here all manner of different dowsing and pendulum devices used for spirit communication. You see there, it's like a little talking board, but it uses a pendulum instead of a planchette.
How would that work?
You've got an alphabet card, and you just, would pick the letter that it swings linearly above.
So the idea would be it would like kind of hover over one
It could, yeah, you'll just kind of follow the force
or repeat, or it would repeat.
which makes this one, actually, this is a great example, which makes this one really confusing because, so you're writing the question now, hey, Brandon, how hard, like, what's it pointing to, right? And maybe it'll do something like this, and you go, oh, it's in, but yeah, this is not the most efficient means of spelling out communications, which makes these really confusing. These mystic hearts and the related Ask the Pyramid. The pendulum's a magnet, and they've got a counteracting magnet in the middle, so it knocks the it's
Oh, I see.
so you're like, how in the hell are you supposed to? Is it ever supposed to point out anything?
Yeah, that's worse than the pendulum one.
Yeah. So
This
guy even got a patent out on these things, and you're like, there's no way you can spell anything with that. There's just no way.
Yeah. What?
I just saw someone say, "What's up, my love?" I hope they're talking to you because if I've got an ex-girlfriend on here, I've got.
That is so cool.
There's a psychograph in use there. Germany.
Now,
Pearson's cablegraph. This is a neat one.
Mary Todd Lincoln. I said it back.
Yes.
She used to do. Would she use these, or was it just
no? She did. Yeah. She. There's no, and I actually know the primary historian who's authored those accounts, and no, there's no evidence that she used any sort of apparatus. Just good old fashioned.
Oh, I like that black one.
Yeah, isn't that gorgeous?
That is beautiful. Wow.
Here's the first planchette I ever acquired in the 90s. Wow. Oh, definitely, she says. Now I feel jilted.
She said definitely.
Definitely. Golly.
I didn't know she was answering that. Now I forgot. I thought she was like saying like definitely love for Taryn. Like I forgot you had said you were away.
God, I'm just chopped liver over here.
No way.
Last time I show off my collection. Yeah, I'm kidding.
That is so cool. What is that? The dark.
Yeah. This one's really hard to show off. This is a Psyche, the medium's cabinet, invented by W.H. Bach. He was a Lilydale medium and publisher, and you could just barely make out.
Oh my gosh!
It's a Ouija, but it also acts as a battery for odic force. You would concentrate. You would place one hand inside the little box, and
oh my god, my bestie Pam Barry, she loves Lilydale. She goes there all the time.
Oh, I know. Yeah, Pam.
Yeah, you should tell her you have that. She would die. She loves it. Anything Lilydale related.
More planchettes. And then getting back to some better lighting.
Yeah, but I can still see it. Well, is that the skull one?
No, that's just a skull.
That's just another human skull I have.
Like you do. Show that without a glare.
So, but you're a skeptic.
I am. Yeah.
So
I took a few things out. There are a few holes in here because I brought them out for show and tell. This is a neat one. This is the Vishnu. So it comes with this little alchemically etched glass.
Oh yeah.
To capture the spirits, and then you would use that as your planchette. You would spread out these alphabet letters.
Gina loves your collection, but she's asking how many years have you been collecting?
Since the late '90s, mid to late '90s. I moved to Austin in '96. I got into magic performance, uh, and I don't know. It's probably about '97 or so. I started to
It's kind of like Houdini, you know, the magic, and then him interested in
right in
what.
spiritualism. Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is fun. If you look at the board behind, so these are some rapping hands and a talking skull. These were used by magicians in spook shows to emulate rapping mediums. You know, they're tricks. But behind them, that device is
yeah, the
actually
long.
something I made. You want to keep your eyes out. You'll want to see uh, Lasse Hallström's new film. So he is the director of What's Eating Gilbert Grape, kind of
Oh,
a
I love
fan
that
service
movie.
director. And he is doing a biopic on Hilma af Klint, the famous sort of the mother of surrealism. And she was a spiritualist. And I was contacted by the director uh, because he didn't just want to use an off-the-shelf Ouija board. He wanted to be historically accurate. So I became a historical consultant on the film. And we were investigating. I was doing some historical research, and I actually found a photo of Clint's seance room. And on the table was this device, sort of like that, this little like roller car that was in sort of a tray. And I immediately knew it was a talking board of some sort. And so I was asked to recreate it for the film. So I actually made this device, shipped it to Bulgaria where they were filming, and finally got it back a couple of months ago. So that will be
Wow,
in the
look at
film. So
you.
that's a lot of fun.
That's
Here's another fun one.
amazing.
If you have seen Jeff Goldblum's film, The Mountain, this is the planchette from that film.
Oh, cool. But how do you? There's such cool stuff.
My kitchen island, that always gets all the attention.
I think I'm going to start a new show. It's going to be Paranormal Cribs.
Haha, right?
This is cool. Oh, wow.
My derpy black goat. Black Phillip.
Can people come see? Well, it's his house.
Yes. So anybody that you find yourself in Austin, Texas, I'm happy to host visitors. I also am on Austin's Weird Homes tour, and we're going to get back and do that this fall, the weekend before Halloween. So that's going to be exciting.
That was fun. What's that up? Wait a minute. How does that up there?
It's just floating, like ghost and everything.
So is that supposed to be with the
So that's a spirit trumpet with some ectoplasm flowing out
ectoplasm?
of it.
That's
So
what I
we
was
didn't really
looking
talk
for.
about spirit trumpets. Spirit trumpets are, I've got some more over here. Spirit trumpets were invented at the same year as planchettes in 1853, invented by the Coons family in Athens County, Ohio. So there's a lot of stuff going on in Athens County, Ohio, and Ohio in general. And so I'll show you so the Coons family. I mentioned earlier that a Fox family seance, you would go and you would sit there, the dim light, and you would wait for the raps to start and communicate with the dead. The Coons family were dictated by the spirits through automatic writing to build something they called their spiritual machine. And what you're looking at is a cross section of a 6-foot-long mahogany table that has all these contraptions. Like what you're looking at here is essentially a bank of nickel and copper plates that were arranged in a sphere, and that was considered to be a bank of batteries. Same with this, and all these wires and insulators and drums and glass knobs and conductors. And this was to charge the atmosphere of a room so that the spirits could manifest within the chamber. And they built a log cabin out in the wilds of Athens County to house this machine. You would turn off all the lights, and glowing hands and spirit forms would begin to manifest. And to communicate with these forms, the main medium of the family, Nim Coons, who was their teenage son, invented the spirit trumpet. And so
Wait a minute.
the
I feel like
lights would
I
be
saw
out,
one of
and
these.
this tin horn would float around the room. You can see these have rings on the end of them for luminous paint. And you could see them float around the room, even though no human was supposed to be touching them. And they would whisper messages from the dead directly into your ear. Now, if you are not a believer in such things, then the medium was finding a way to fraudulently hold one of these and whisper into your ear and pretend he's actually the voice of your dead aunt. That's the spirit trumpet. So those were invented in 1853 and are popular really until Houdini puts a big kibosh on the spirit trumpet with a series of exposés. And fun fact, the top spirit trumpet there is one that Houdini used in a series of photo shoots for his expose articles and was given to Joseph Dunninger, from whose estate I acquired.
Wow.
So that one has actually been handled by Houdini. So that's fun.
Wow. I feel like somebody used this to do a seance. I was at Wildwood Sanitarium. I don't know anything about seances and stuff like that, but they had this something that looked like that in the center of the table.
Yep.
Okay. I was.
Yeah, they I don't, they are occasionally used in the modern era, but
Wow.
Houdini did such a great job exposing them that they don't show up as much as they used to.
Wow, that's so cool.
Oh, and this is fun.
What's that thing? The white you have it's white behind it. What is that?
This is a piece of this is the original Fox Cottage, where they experienced the poltergeist activity that led to the birth of modern spiritualism. It was actually moved to Lilydale, but it burned down in, I think, 1953. But this is actually a piece of it that I recovered from its original foundations.
Oh, wow.
And that represents ectoplasm. So this is actually some glow-in-the-dark luminous cloth from a 1940s era spook show that was given to me by Calvin Von Crush. And I reformed it, and it was often shown emitting from the spirit trumpet. So this would have been part of a luminous shroud that a spook show performer would have draped over themselves to walk through the audience in the dark to pretend to be a ghost.
Wait, go down. Down. Where is it? There it is.
Oh, this. Right. So that's some more luminous cheesecloth in the background there. But this is actually a pair of seance tongs. So these would have been used to reach across the table at a distance, smuggled into the seance room, and used at a distance to snag things on the table, drop things in people's laps.
When the
medium was thought to be bound.
Gotcha. Oh, look at that one up there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is from the 1930s. This is the William Fuld mystifying oracle that we call it the electrifying oracle, because it used a metal planchette with a battery in it.
So what is your favorite thing you own?
I don't have it on display at the moment. I've got to get it back from it's currently on loan. Got to get it back from the Minneapolis Institute of Art, and that is the Dr. Robert Hare Spiritoscope. And I think I can point to. Oh, I turned my camera around already. Let's see if I can do this. I own this thing. Let's see if I can get that straight. What this is a test device. This is the oldest piece of spirit communication apparatus in America, in the world, in any collection. And that was invented in 1855 by Dr. Robert Hare, who was a prominent American chemist who set out to debunk table tipping and ended up.
He'll be back. I wonder if that's like a device that he made. So when you put it on the table, I don't know. But that's really cool. I feel like he said he had that. If you're watching, just go and re-click the link again and come back in. Oh, Yeah, yeah, he'll come back in. All right. So if anybody knows, can I disconnect from Facebook, maybe just from one thing? Or will it? Oh, yeah, Gina, it's so good. You would love it. Brandon, if you're watching, it won't delete it from the recording if I just leave it. There he is.
Where did I go?
Where
I was
did you
talking,
go?
it just kicked me. It was like, you're out of here, bud. Bounced me out. I'm glad I got back as quick as I did. I still had the link copy pasted.
Awesome.
That, y'all.
No.
What did y'all say about me while I was gone?
Well, I was.
So that device was invented as a piece of scientific test apparatus.
Tina said you're haunted.
Roll back and forth. What's that?
She said you're haunted.
I am.
Yeah. So what? It would sit on the table, and then it would just move.
And it would roll. A medium would roll it back and forth. They would face it toward you, the audience, because it's a test device. They can't see it because the plate is facing you. They place their hands from behind it on either side. And it would roll back and forth.
Oh. So you have that?
I do. It's currently in Minneapolis, but I do.
But that's so cool. So that you would say that's your most favorite?
I think that object. So something, listen, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a good classic Ouija board, right? But these were mass produced,
Right.
And, I can have one. You can have one. Anybody that's got a few $100 can go grab an original Kennard Ouija board. And there's other stuff that's more rare, but in almost all cases, mass manufactured. As rare as they may be, I have many planchettes, including like the glass Kirby planchette. This is the only one we've ever seen, and we may never see another one. It might be the only one that survived. We don't know how many were made, but there's always the chance another one could pop up.
Right.
Not so with the hair spiritoscope. It's a singular piece of equipment that was made by a prominent American scientist, and it's really a Smithsonian level artifact, and that's probably who will eventually end up with it.
Gina said there was a test by blindfolding people doing Ouija board before blindfold. They were spelling out stuff after.
Yeah. Penn and Teller's Ouija board episode of Bullshit is kind of a fun watch. And it's interesting because they blindfold the mediums using it, and they secretly turn the Ouija upside down. Yet their hands continue to go to yes and no as if they were still in their original places.
Interesting. Oh, bullshit. I love your collection.
Thank you. This is the part I have on display anyway. If anyone wants to see what I've been up to during the pandemic, all I have to do is just move my camera real quick, just over my shoulder. This is that's my. Oh God, this is so weird. That's my pandemic haul. This is the stuff I need to process and get on display, and
Oh wow. I just did that. I have some medical antiques, not anything near anything you have, but I have this little armoire that I just put up, and I put all my little medical antiques in there. I'm an antiquer. I love it. I'm sorry. I'm going to let you go because you have been on with me for an hour and a half. If time flew.
Already?
Yes.
Well, I guess we'll have to do it again.
Yep. I was just going to say, and this is why I have, thank you. I posted pictures of it. So I thank you, Gina. But yeah, you will have to come on again for sure. I mean, I know you're really, really busy.
But just trying to write a book.
That's it. A huge book.
A big book.
Yeah. Oh, what was going to be the name of the book again?
That I don't know. I'm still chewing on that one. But I'll certainly have it all over social media whenever it's getting ready to come out.
Definitely.
I want to get it to a certain point of completion and then finish shopping it around. So.
Yeah, and then maybe you can come back on afterwards and we can talk about
Oh,
your book.
totally. It's y'all. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be big. Probably going to be about 2 inches thick. Probably we're looking at probably 500 pages,
Nice.
450, 500 pages, 1,500 illustrations. It's just going to be crazy.
You have a very awesome. Like there's so many layers. Like you know what I mean, and there's so much. I actually want to like come to Texas just to see all your stuff.
Anytime. Happy to host you.
Are you originally from Texas?
I grew born and raised. Yeah, Cajun
Really?
boy from the swamps, Southeast Texas.
So my friend Gina wants to have you on her show.
Okay.
The
Oh, I
Fox
see. All right, let me take a screenshot of that. Bloop. I missed it. All right, cool.
Did you get it? She can message you. Probably.
Yeah, she can do it.
Right?
Yeah, y'all can find me on Instagram, even though I have largely abandoned posting there. It's still my main presence. So I'm at mysteriousplanchet.com, just, or no, not .com. It's at mysteriousplanchet. And there's a lot of fun stuff on TikTok for those of you who have switched over to TikTok.
I just got 1,000.
And I'll probably get back around to it. At Occult Archaeology is my friend Brandy and I, as well as my research assistant Olivia, did a lot of really cool videos. We were taking a break from it, put it on the back burner while we try to get this book written. But it's a lot of fun. A lot of cool videos, awesome. A lot of cool Ouija and spiritualism history there too.
That's
in
awesome.
Nice little bite-sized segments,
Yeah, but a lot.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Thank you so much for
my pleasure. Always a pleasure. Can't believe it took us this.
I know. And I remember, like I said, your lecture was at Phenomenology was totally like it sat with me forever. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's an honor to have you on, actually, because it was awesome to see you and see you again. And Gina said, when do you think the book will be out?
We are on track to have it written and the photo and the illustration files finished probably by the end of the year. Once I can get my kids back in school and I can really get back to work on it, and because they've been home all summer, I'll really be clear of that. But I've got it's a decade by decade breakdown of this history. And I think by the end of the year, it'll be done, and we'll probably be shopping it around early next year. And it should go pretty quick after that. So
good. See, she's booking next year, April. So
all right,
awesome. That'll be good. Then you can go on there. I'm not booking that so far advanced, so I'm gonna have you first.
Fair enough.
And then she can have you.
Make sure I see the message. I saw the tag and I was like, oh, Taryn tagged me in something. Let me see what that is. It was like tonight. And I was like,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Next time I will definitely message you like a week before just to say, hey.
No.
Don't forget about me.
I obviously I can just jump on anytime and get it done. I eat this stuff up. I love to talk about it. So.
I love that you love to talk about it, because definitely you're gonna be a return guest for me for sure. I have some of those, and it's just because there's so much to talk about, and I just need to just keep on having you on. So awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank your babies for allowing you to sit and have some time with me. And definitely look forward to the next time. And thank you so much. And please keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Maybe one of these days you'll make it out to one of the paranormal things I'm at, and you'll be doing a lecture. And
yep, let me know where you're heading. It's easy for me to do. I could throw my laptop in a bag and fill an artist portfolio full of boards, and I'm there. It's easy.
That's so amazing.
Pay for travel in a hotel room. I'm a cheap date.
That's awesome. I'll have to tell Pam. Pam should have you at the Gettysburg Battlefield back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Again. My pleasure. Good night, everyone. Thanks for showing up.
Much love, Brandon. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Good night. All right, guys. And I am going to be out, and I will see you guys next week. I have JD Swords coming on. He's a satanic skeptic. So that will be up to you guys to watch if you don't want to, but I guarantee you it'll be amazing. Referred by Kenny Biddle. So I'm looking forward to that one. And love you guys. Good night.